the FiiO FT13. Looking at the driver design, it actually reminds me a lot of the Fostex TH900. The TH900 uses what's called a biodyna driver. In practice, it's made from a mix of bacterial celluloids and carbon fiber. FiiO says the FT13's driver is based on birchwood fiber, which is also a type of paper-like driver. And let's start with the accessories. The accessories are fairly simple. You get a carrying case, the FT13 slides inside, and underneath that you'll find the manual, cleaning clothes, and an extra pair of earpads. In terms of comfort, the FT13 feels a bit odd, to be honest. I'm not sure if it's the way the headband distributes the pressure or if it's because the earpads are too stiff, but I just can't get a perfect seal with it. It doesn't feel snug, and the pressure seems to focus mostly on top of the head, making that area feel a bit uncomfortable after a while. It's not exactly clampy. It's more like all the tension is concentrated at the top, and because of that, the lower parts of the pad slightly lifts off my face, kind of like this. By contrast, the TH900 fits the face much better. Its earpads are softer, so it feels secure, much more comfortable overall. That said, I've got to give FiiO credit for one thing. The earpad mounting system is actually pretty well designed. It uses a snap-on mechanism, and the alignment is super easy. To remove it, just pull upward from the button, and to reinstall, line it up and press down until you hear that satisfying click click click. The cable itself is also pretty solid. Furukawa monocrystalline copper mixed with silver-plated OFC. They didn't specify the purity level, but judging from the thickness alone, it definitely looks quite good. My only complaint is the color. I don't really get why they went with this brownish tone for a silver-plated cable. The overall color match just feels off in my opinion. Looking at the frequency response, the leader pads have a more pronounced V-shaped curve compared to the suede pads, meaning both the bass and treble gains are higher. For this analysis, I'll focus on the suede pads, and I'll explain why later. Between 80 and 250 Hz, the response is above the preference bounds. This region mainly covers the mid-bass, which affects impacts and body. It's also where the fundamentals of male vocal sit. With this much gain, you'd expect a strong sense of warmth, but in reality, that's not the case. The tonal bass doesn't come across as warm. This is one of those moments where the graph doesn't quite match the actual listening impression. That said, vocal do occasionally sound a bit muffled or slightly veiled, which does line up with what the curve suggests. Around 900 to 1200 Hz, there's a noticeable dip, and honestly, that's a pretty strange choice. This is the core of the mid-range, the area where most vocal and instrument harmonics live. Because of this dip, vocal can sound a bit hollow, lacking in fullness and body. Drums, guitars, and pianos also lose some of their thickness, resulting in a somewhat dry and thin presentation. Then at 4000 Hz, there's a narrow notch. This region usually handles the lower sibilant range of vocal. I suspect the intention here was to make sibilants less aggressive. But in practice, it doesn't really work that way. Just like the TH900, the sibilance here can feel like it's drilling into your eardrums. That's because they have raised another huge peak between 6 and 8000 Hz. So what you get is an extremely bright treble, with sibilance that's not only prominent but also piercing. Alright, let's talk about the actual listening impression. Out of the box, it comes with leader pads, and my first reaction was just two words: absolute nightmare. It has the exact same issue as the original red TH900. The mids are paper thin, yep, paper-like. And the treble is like being stabbed into ears with needles. It's painfully bright, like I can't even finish one track. It's just too bright and too painful to listen to. If we're talking about on a 10-point scale, this one has a solid -1 with leader pads. Then I switched to the suede pads, and thankfully, things got a bit more reasonable. Not good, but at least no longer unbearable. It's kind of like what the Yassi Alcantara pads do for the TH900. They tempt the aggression and make it somewhat civilized. That said, it's still not what I'd call a good sounding. I'll start with the good points. First off, for a closed backhand, the soundstage is actually impressively wide. And I mean seriously, you can actually describe it as wide. It's spacious and surprisingly open for its design. It almost rivaled the TH900 in width. It has that sense of openness, the feeling that you are not listening inside a sealed design. The openness is really hard to achieve for a closed back. And in that regards, the FT13 deserves credit. The other positive is its imaging clarity. Each instrument has a defined position and outline. You can easily perceive where everything sits in the mix. Instrument separation is also solid for its price point, making it easier to follow individual instruments in the music. Sounds good? Well, here's where things start to go off the rails. This one has one fundamental problem. Every frequency band feels like disconnected from the others. It's like the bass, mids, and treble are all playing their own separate concerts. No coherence, no unity, just chaos in perfect stereo. You'd think with that massive bass bump on the graph, it would at least deliver some serious bass impacts. But nope, when you actually listen to it, the bass is just gone. It feels flat. Unless the track really emphasizes the kick or sub-bass, you will barely notice it. And when the drum finally hits, you will realize there's only that single impact layer, then straight down into a wash of sub-bass resonance. Everything in between is just like missing in action. The mid fits exactly what the frequency graph suggests: dry, thin, and sharp. The vocals are literally paper thin, like a single paper sheet just floating in there. The good thing is that it's bright, so at least vocal edges still come through clearly. And the bad thing is that it's painfully bright. And honestly, if what I just said didn't already scare most people away, then the treble will. Because compared to that, the other issues are child's play. Even with straight pads, the treble on this thing is just bright, painfully bright, sharp, piercing, aggressive. There's sibilance in almost every voice line, and not the gentle kind either. It's like this headphone isn't playing music, it's charging at my eardrum with a bayonet. Especially in string passages, the highs sound like someone is scraping a razor through the violin strings. What should have been a silky smooth shimmering detail turns into a kind of exaggerated, glass-shattering sharpness, as if someone just smashed the window and poured the shots straight into your ears. And the cymbals, they just come straight at you, like someone is hurling a sheet of metal right into your face. My source chain was the Topping DX5 II, which from my observation has an effect of softening, or to say, trimming off the highs a little bit. Even though it still sounds this sharp, I can't even imagine what happens if you plug it into a front end with thicker treble control. In the end, I honestly have no idea why FiiO decided to tune the FT13 like this. They have done some great tuning work in the past. Even if they have just copied the FT7's tuning, it wouldn't have turned out like this. But for the FT13, I genuinely can't recommend it.